And welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Glad you're with us. We're here every week meeting interesting people and discussing topical issues. And this week we have both. The internet is leading to things we couldn't even imagine a few years ago. And a lot of people want to talk about football and sports and University of Oklahoma. And this show combines it all into one capsule.
Get it all in talking about Soonersports.com. We're going to have two individuals on with us that know all about that. They're going to tell us how it's working, what they're trying to do, and what's being accomplished.
And what's the potential of the internet, and is it a revenue producer? We'll discuss all of that in the future when we get back on The Verdict.
Every day America uses clean-burning natural gas instead of coal or oil is a day of victory for our environment. That's why Chesapeake chose to explore for natural gas exclusively, and we've never looked back. Because natural gas burns twice as clean as oil or coal, and reducing carbon emissions to combat potential global warming is every bit as urgent as cutting our dependence on energy imports. As America's #1 driller of new gas wells, Chesapeake is moving fast to find untapped reserves of natural gas here at home. It's the right fuel for America's economy and the fuel for a clean air future. We just happen to be early to see it so clearly. Chesapeake, natural gas wins the day.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guests.
Today we're very pleased to have two individuals from the University of Oklahoma Athletic Department. They're going to talk about Soonersports.com. To my right is Kenny Mossman. Kenny is the Senior Associate Athletic Director at the University of Oklahoma. He did his undergraduate work at Southwestern University in Kansas, got his master's degree at Kansas State. Couldn't read my own writing. He joined the University of Oklahoma in 2001. He supervises media relations and a lot of other things. He helps negotiate the TV, radio contracts as well. He's the author of a new book I want to talk to you about just a second. It's called Oklahoma Football Vault. It's a book about Sooner football. It's available at Amazon.com, Walmart stores, most bookstores. It's very much in demand, and I recommend that you take a look at it. To my left is Jason Matheson. Jason is the director of the University of Oklahoma Athletic Internet Services Department. Jason is a native Oklahoman, did his undergraduate work as an Auburn Tiger, I guess. At Auburn University, joined Oklahoma Athletic Department in 2002, supervises Soonersports.com website, and designs the OU media guides. And the OU football media guide was selected the best in the nation in 2004 by those folks that make such evaluations. This is his first visit, as it is for Kenny, and we welcome both of you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you.
Kenny, I know a lot of jobs have changed with the advent of the internet, how the internet has grown up and forced people to learn new skills and new information streams. I can't imagine, though, any matching yours. I mean, from what was dominant print media when you started in the business to more broadcasting, and now with the internet and all of those combined into one. How do you keep up with the ever-evolving media explosion and the interest in the athletic department? department?
Well, I think it's a challenge not just for our department, but for everybody. I think your line of work's probably no different. I mean, there is always a new avenue to explore for us to put out information. But I think the thing that's probably changed the most for us is we always had to rely on somebody else to get our message out there. There always was going to be a filter that we were going to have to send our message through. Now, if you look at a school like Oklahoma, we've got our own television network, our own radio network, our own website, which in many ways is today's print. So really, we've got almost all the mediums covered, and then you can talk about all those social networks that are out there, and we participate in those as well. But I think for the first time, really, in our history, we can put our message out there unfiltered, and I think our fans really enjoy that. The numbers would indicate that they like being able to get information directly from the source.
Jason, what is Soonersports.com? How would you define it?
Well, it is the athletics department's official site, and we put everything on there covering all of our teams. And
how many teams?
I believe 20 if we count track and field, cross country separately, and
Wow.
we've just added rowing, women's rowing. But it is the place for a Sooner fan to come and get the messages, Kenny said, directly from the athletics department, not filtered through any other source.
And is anybody going to this website?
A few people, we hear from a few of them from time to time.
What you have any numbers you can share?
We average roughly 3.5 million page views a month, and we're starting to see it begins to spike in July and August with football interest, and we cover preseason practice thanks to Coach Stoops allowing us access. But the numbers last year with the basketball seasons we had, both in men's and women's, and also baseball and softball going deep into postseason hosting events. It's a year-round traffic puller now.
What do people want to see? They want information. They want to see video. What's evolving, and where are you having to create more material?
Well, our number one goal, and we really believe where our angle is that we should leverage our access to our student athletes and coaches. I mean, they're right there on campus. We have access to them at practice and other times that the traditional media do not. And we want to pull that Sooner fan, whether that Sooner fan be in New York or in the military overseas. We want to allow that Sooner fan to feel like they have a front row seat, and they're getting a behind the scenes look at practice, and they're really getting to know our student athletes and coaches when they have their helmets off or they're just not a number on the field. So that's what we're really trying to leverage.
Kenny, how long has the website been up, and what prompted the creation of it in the first place?
Well, the website really predates my arrival. It was already up and pretty strong in the late 1990s. But back then it was an either-or proposition for most schools. Some were choosing to participate at a high level, others were not. And Oklahoma really was. But it's interesting now, if you look at our entire communications effort, it really is the cornerstone of what we do. It is a main staple in every athletics department, not only from an informational standpoint, but from a revenue standpoint as well. So we're really proud of the one that we have. We've got a great director who runs it, and it's been just phenomenal to watch the internet develop in 10 years in college athletics.
Let me ask Jason, I know you are involved with the media guide preparation as well as the website. How do those two things work together?
As Kenny said, it has evolved also quite a bit. When I first got here, the media guide really was the sole source every year for information, your historical data, and if you wanted to learn a bio or learn about the new players, that's what you did, that's what you got. And it had really evolved and also to a recruiting guide, in that this was something that also sold the program overall. But now you see each of the coaching staffs, they want their message centered onto their sport. And the media guide, all of that information now, a lot of it is online. And our bonus online is that we can be interactive with it, and we can update immediately. As soon as somebody breaks a record in a game, we can have that information updated, whereas in a print guide, you're going to wait for the next year. But all of that information, we want it online, but then we want to expand it. So nothing's going away, but it's just growing and becoming interactive.
Kenny, you mentioned the revenue side, and at what point is someone at your level or someone higher up going to say, you mean we can make money off this thing? Tell me more about that. How are we going to make money off this?
They've already had that thought.
Yeah.
We sell our multimedia rights in a contract that we announce every time we update it to Learfield Communications out of Jefferson City, Missouri. And the most recent contract we signed, which I think we're about 3 years into, was a 10-year, $76 million contract. Out of that contract, then SSP, which is Sooner Sports Properties, a division of Learfield, will sub-sell our website out. Now that figure is between two companies, so we don't have public access to that, but it's in the millions of dollars as well. So It is amazing. You go back to when we were in the elementary stage of just putting a roster up and thrilled to death that we could have a roster up on the website, to now the interactive nature that Jason mentioned and the tremendous ad capacity that we have with all those eyes that are coming to the site. It's a tremendous boon to our department. It's a very important revenue source.
So the ad revenue is kind of the key to the revenue side, or will people pay to see videos? Could you put old games on there and charge? I mean, does any of that make sense?
The old TV rights are a little convoluted because a lot of people, even the people who did the games, aren't quite sure who owns all those rights if you go way back.
Yeah.
But we've done some live inventory. We average between 2,000 and 3,000 subscribers to our All Access site, which is the premium portion that you're mentioning. And we're one of the top sites in the country for that. We'd like to see that number grow quite a bit, but the national numbers are showing us it's just not there yet. I think there's enough free content out there right now that it's just difficult.
Are you guys at the head of the game? Are you guys trailing? What's the other athletic departments around the country that are full scale into this? How do you guys rate?
Well, I'll tell you, probably the best way for me to answer that question would be to think across the table about what Jason's done, because he's really a master at design and customer service. And our site has been emulated so many times around the country, and if copying somebody's work is the sincerest form of flattery, then Jason should be flattered for the rest of his life. He and his staff do tremendous work, and I really do, and it's not because I work there, but we have great staff and we have resources, and we do have one of the top sites in the country.
What are the areas that you want to get into that you haven't been able to break into just yet, but you hope to?
Well, I think Kenny had mentioned earlier that we are actually moving offices down into Sooner Vision, which is our in-house video production, and we really feel like that is the future, is that when fans come, and when you talked about contrasting it with the media guide, that's a perfect example. People want to see immediate, I mean, and we can go out and have a small camera and interview a player right after a practice, or interview a coach, show highlights. We really feel like the video aspect is going to explode. And you see that already. It precedes us a bit with what you see on YouTube and some of the social network sites like Facebook. Right. It's coming.
Yeah. Why don't we go ahead and take our first break. Jason Matheson helps run Sooner Vision. Kenny Mossman is in charge of a lot of information that comes out of the sports department at the University of Oklahoma. We're discussing the internet and how it interacts with college athletics. It's today on The Verdict, and we'll be right back with more.
I'm Dr. Suzanne Van Kooten, a research hydrometeorologist at National Severe Storms Lab, and I'm a Chickasaw. There's a stewardship there, I think, that's within Native Americans and the protectionist of the land, and are we going to leave things better than when we came in, that came across in how I did my job. I had a true passion for it because I realized that this was what we had always done. We'd always been so involved with the land and taking care of the land, but also taking care of people. So that is truly the stream that you go down as a meteorologist. You want to protect lives and property. The Chickasaw Nation does an amazing job with our education programs. There are no excuses for you not to succeed as a Chickasaw in education. That's fundamental. That's fundamental to the success of the nation, is this education aspect, because knowledge literally is power.
Home values are down in some states, but not in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's home values have increased 4.2% during the past 12 months. Unlike some states where home values have decreased as much as 20%. Good thing you're in Oklahoma. There may be real estate problems in some states, but there has never been a better time than now to buy or sell a home in Oklahoma. One of the most affordable states in the country, Oklahomans are buying and selling homes every day, and an Oklahoma realtor can show you how. Good thing you're in Oklahoma.
That land next door was a mess. Take more than a lawnmower to revive that land. I heard the oil and natural gas people was cleaning up old oil sites, and it wouldn't cost us a plug nickel. Oh yes, sir, it was quite a revival. The whole church showed up, want to make a playground for the kids. It sure is a blessing.
Mick Cornett and Kent Myers back on The Verdict. We're discussing the internet and specifically Soonervision.com and where we can go from here. Kent, where do you want to talk?
Kenny, by getting on the website, can the fan be brought up to date on what's going on in the recruiting area?
I'd like to say yes, because we know that a lot of people would like to have that information, but NCAA rules preclude us from doing that. Until a student athlete actually signs a letter of intent, we can't do anything, but even, we might be able to slightly acknowledge that we were recruiting someone, but that's really about the extent of it. And so we can't do anything of a proactive nature when it comes to recruiting, and that's a hindrance to us, I think, in terms of how many people look at our website. But I understand that they don't want to turn the recruiting thing into such a wild game of sport, and I think it has become that a little bit anyway, and I think if the schools jumped in, it would probably make the problem much worse. So it's probably okay, but we'd love to have the extra eyes.
What about the chat rooms? I can assume there's some pretty lively debate that goes on in those rooms.
We know Sooner fans, they're all going to have an opinion. We do not have message boards. We're the official mouthpiece of the athletics department, so we're very careful there. We do know they exist, and we see what is going on there. You can take the pulse of a fan base pretty quickly by going on any of the free message boards. But it's always interesting, and I think that fans enjoy it, and we do not have it on our site.
So you don't have it on your site.
No,
I guess
sir.
I realize that, and that's you do that purposefully.
I think all athletics departments do that because, first of all, you are responsible compliance-wise for what's appearing on the official athletics department site. Well, there is no way that we have staff to be able to monitor what everybody is saying, or anyone that can anonymously post on a message board that just isn't a place for it on Soonersports.com.
Let me ask you a question, Jason. Can you estimate for our viewers just about how many page views you have in a calendar year?
Ken, we're blessed with numbers on the internet. We can tell you where they come from, what page they were looking at before they landed on Soonersports.com. We're approaching 40 million page views in a typical year. A lot of that, if you look at our success last year across the board in all of our sports, and I think that OU has a national following, and the website really is what services those people that may not be in Oklahoma or the region. You can read about Oklahoma in newspapers here. You're not going to get that in New York, or if you're in the military overseas, you can have access to Soonersports.com.
Oh, how does that viewership rank among other sports websites?
We believe we're in the top 5 athletics departments in the nation, which is remarkable if you actually consider, the state of Oklahoma does not have an enormous population, and then also the student enrollment at OU is not that great. But I think it is it attributes to the success that we've had and also our national following. But 40 million page views is a good number.
Kenny, how do you credential internet reporters? Anybody with a site can't get a press pass, I'm assuming.
No, and we're starting to learn a lot of the numbers that Jason just mentioned, and we've taken our cue from the ad agencies that are buying space on websites, because we figure they have a better handle probably than anybody as to what sites have legitimate numbers. So we're starting to pay attention to that. There was a time when we didn't credential any websites, and we just had that as a rule of thumb, and it kept the problem from ever really arising. We can't do that any longer. Now those sites are very legitimate. They have legitimate followings, and so we're going to have to adjust the way that we hand out credentials, and we're going to learn page views, hits. We're going to learn all that terminology, set some minimum standards, and follow those.
Let's change the subject just for a minute. We'll go back to the website here in a little bit, but I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your book. Tell us about what it's about. I know it's about OU football, but tell us a little more about it and what prompted you to write it.
Well, there weren't enough OU history books. We all know that's not true. Whitman Publishing is a company down in Atlanta, and they had approached me about writing the book, and I had seen another example of one that they had done elsewhere in the country. And their whole premise was built on a coffee table style book that would have inserts. It's a tremendous amount of handwork that goes into that book. But what they've been able to do is get replicas of artifacts and actually stuff them in the pages. And just to give you an example, it was my favorite one in the whole book, and it might be the first one in the book. Harold Keith, the former sports information director for many, many years, had written 2 fantastic books on OU football. And the first one was called Oklahoma Kickoff, where he takes you through the first 25 years. And if Oklahoma fans have not read that book, they've done themselves a terrible disservice, because it not only talks about OU, but Norman, the state of Oklahoma. It's a fascinating historical piece. But he had a exchange through the mail with John Hartz, who was the first football coach at Oklahoma in 1895. And he had found John working at a company out in California, and they exchanged letters. Well, we took one of those letters, made copies of it, obviously, and have that in the book. So you can read Harold Keith corresponding with the very first coach. It's got his signature right on there. I mean, it's an amazing artifact. And so the whole book is filled with those kinds of things, programs from games that are many, many years ago. So it's a unique concept. The text, which I wrote, is really, to me, an aside to what makes that book really interesting.
And the University of Oklahoma's football program has documentation really that supersedes all other schools, because Keith was so instrumental in the early days of really inventing that position.
Absolutely meticulous. I really regret that I never got to meet him. You know, they call him Mr. Keith around our office, and just a remarkable individual. And the copious notes that he kept on everything that he did made my job and the others who have tackled OU history books a lot easier, because the record keeping he did is second to none around the country.
Jason, what's new and exciting? What do you hope to do on the website in the future that you haven't been able to do so far?
We have, there's always something new. Every day you get into the office and you don't know what is coming, but it's always there on your desk, and that is an exciting part, especially working at OU. But I believe that this will be our 5th redesign of the site coming later this summer. We're going to completely revamp it. We have identified, we've gone in and researched and identified all of our core groups that we're trying to communicate with, and also we're trying to push the video aspect of it and the more behind the scenes aspect of what goes on a daily basis in Norman. And also we want to provide the kids that we're recruiting, that age grew up online. And we feel that we want them to be able to see OU and understand what's going on down on our campus in Norman by coming to the site. So when you go to the women's basketball page on Soonersports.com, you're going to learn about Coach Cole and her staff. You're going to learn about our facilities. You're going to learn about our academics. You're going to learn about just what it is to be a Sooner, a student athlete for OU. And that's what we really want to start focusing on, and I think that's where we're headed.
How many, including volunteers and paid employees, how many people are involved in that website?
One of our core parts of our mission statement under Joe C. has been that collective efforts of everyone creates a competitive advantage for OU, and that is no better illustrated than on Soonersports.com. Sooner Vision, the ticket office, the marketing department, media relations, Sooner Club, the development office. There are so many areas that contribute online. We have 2 full-time employees just in internet services, myself and Tori Kukowski. And there is no way that we'd be able to stay on top of all that, everything that's going on with all of our sports on a daily basis, unless everybody was pitching in.
I see.
So you see efforts from every area of the athletics department online.
We've just final seconds. So, where are we headed with this? What's tomorrow hold for your job, line of work?
I think we're really headed to where the site is going to become much more mobile. You see everyone with their handhelds, and we really want to be proactive with our message and get it out there. I see the mobile aspect, but also the video aspect, and really leveraging our access to our coaches and student athletes. That's where we're headed.
Jason Matheson and Kenny Mossman, employees at the University of Oklahoma on the front lines of the internet revolution. Thanks for coming on The Verdict.
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Kent and I'll have a final word after this.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers. We're here to wrap up a show with Jason Matheson and Kenny Mossman. They've been discussing Soonersports.com, which is the athletic department's website down in Norman.
Well, it seemed to be certainly on the cutting edge of what's going on. That many hits during the course of a year is just astounding to me, particularly with where we are in the United States and what a small state and small university, relatively speaking, we're dealing with. So they must really have a good product people are interested in.
It's hard to know where all this is going, but you see all of the media evolving toward the internet, whether you're talking about a television station, a radio station, or a newspaper. The internet is starting to get a broader and broader and more in-depth reach on all these media. There's a convergence like we've never seen before.
And there's a potential for revenue that isn't present in the normal newspaper, because here the OU website is going to be able to give information that's really not available elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Whereas your New York Times or your Boston Globe or other newspapers are just giving you on the website what you can get any other place.
That's
so
right.
They do have a corner on the news market that would make revenue easier to bring about.
Well, let me give you a couple of bits of internet information today, as we always do, information about our guests. And today our topic was about the website, so it's certainly appropriate. Soonersports.com is the website that Kenny and Jason work. And also our website, theverdict.tv. Log on, tell us about a show or a subject you'd like to see right here on The Verdict. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.